Okay, recording started back up. Because one of the problems that this software has is that if it at any point freezes, even though all the data's there, it didn't close it.
Yeah,
so then the whole file's just gone. I'm like, well, no, we have other stuff to go into, but I don't want to lose that hour because we went into a lot of good stuff.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I want to play with my camera too. The colors just look so saturated. I swear I look like a cartoon. Let me play with it a little bit. See if I can make it look a little bit better.
Okay.
So what is Microsoft expands Hotmail active use? What, I didn't even read that. What is that?
Well, okay, what's going on there is Microsoft's doing more of what they started doing about a year ago, and there's a lot of pages doing this as of late. Basically, something that's becoming very predominant in the web, and Hotmail is just one of the things doing it, is the idea of you're never going to leave the page to go to the rest of the web. Like if somebody sends you YouTube videos or other certain things, and you get them via Hotmail, you can actually open the YouTube video in Hotmail without ever actually leaving Hotmail.
Well, let me add this then. If that's the case, why is it that 90% of the sites that I go to, not only on my computers, but the companies I go to, I always get this error, can't load the video. But yet if I click the damn video, it then takes me to YouTube directly and all of a sudden it plays.
Well,
does that happen a lot to you, Pete?
I tend not to use Hotmail, but honestly...
No, I can use Hotmail. I'm just talking about an embedded video because that's what we're talking about.
Oh, well, that's gonna depend on your mail security settings and your script settings and other things. By default, the way I configure mine, because I actually want to see all the things, I just see a bunch of HTML code. And an embedded URL, and then I'm like, oh, that's the URL I want to go to. Because I deliberately block all of that stuff. However, if you haven't scaled that stuff down for security reasons, which admittedly a lot of mail clients do by default, Google's one of them. I don't honestly know on the Apple mail thing. But a lot of them do. Thunderbird does that. By default, Thunderbird won't even load images. You have to say, allow this image. I actually prefer things that way. But there's a lot of people who are 180 the other way. They don't care that they're breaching their privacy. They don't care that they're potentially opening themselves to spam bots, identifying them, and other stuff. They just want it to work. And for the people who take that mentality, those things all work perfectly. The video just winds up embedded there in the email automatically, and that's something that Hotmail's going for.
Right.
It's like it translates that URL that you're being linked to into an embedded YouTube video, because for YouTube everybody knows how to do that. It's iframe, youtube.com/embed/ the little hex thing. You can write a very simple script that'll go take this piece and this piece and put them together in this format. So it's just there.
Well, I'm not a big web email person. You want to know how long I've been around? I just closed my Earthlink.
Leo, get out of the pool.
There for years. I'm a big client person. I don't like web email. That's just the way I am. I use a product called Postbox, and I'm very big on having email clients on all my computers, and I manage very specifically when I delete email from the server and all that other stuff. But I don't know. I can't get into the whole web email phenomenon, so I really don't know much about having Hotmail accounts or any of that.
I'm divided as somebody who thinks about it from the security standpoint. So I love IMAP and I love web-based email clients, because then it's just I have this global location that follows me everywhere I go, regardless of what system I'm on, so on and so forth. If you're using a client with POP, you wind up in a situation where email X is on machine Y and email blah. But on the other token, it's like part of me, the security hat part of me, really does like that old school system. On the other hand,
exactly, because the way I did it is that I have one machine that has the settings on POP mail. Whether you do IMAP, I use IMAP more for if I want to preserve folders and the structure.
Right.
But if I'm doing POP, basically I have one computer that I always, because it's my workflow, I have several devices that I hit. But I'm always going to come home late at night and always hit my one computer, and yeah, it'll be like repeat emails. It'll be repeat emails. It clears, and I where my stuff. But I like to have backups of each email anyway, because I have been victim to where it's been essentially located server email. And then several locations.
Just because it's a centrally located thing doesn't mean you shouldn't back up. I back up at least on one system. I have a backup copy of every IMAP I have. So if the IMAP crashes, I still have all the emails.
Yeah, but it's like, especially on
but at the end of the day, this is that old debate between better security, which admittedly POP is, versus usability. It just follows me around everywhere. Honestly, it depends what type of email account this is. How much resources the server has, whether or not I should be dedicating its runtime to maintaining my IMAP, and a whole mess of other things. From an end user, I just want it to work perspective, I prefer the web cloud-based solution. From a IT guy, this creates issues. Yeah, I have the same head as you. So I find myself straddling the line between the two, like not really committed to either, but seeing the virtue of both. Yeah. I don't know about I don't know about you, Leo, or you, Dark.
This is more your territory.
Okay. I will tell you this.
Obviously, you receive email. Do you prefer having a client or using web email, or?
I use Thunderbird for the most part.
Okay.
The audio is really screwed up right now.
Yeah, I noticed that. It just kind of went nuts for a second. I will tell you this, and this is one of the reasons I think, our concerns aside, I think Hotmail is making the right decision, and that is 90% plus of the end users don't give a shit about the security concerns. They just want it to work. As a matter of fact, the number one hack I'm asked to perform on a regular basis to Thunderbird is to go in there and turn off the setting that isn't a setting to say stop blocking pictures. Because there is no way, there is no setting.
Microsoft, I thought everybody learned from Microsoft when Microsoft thought it was a brilliant idea to go ahead and automatically launch ActiveX's in emails. I remember those days. It's Jesus.
Well, yeah, it's the number one request.
Remember how devastating that was?
And I'll sit there and explain to them, you really don't want to be doing that, and they go, I don't care. I'm like, okay. It's like, it's your system, your email, your money. That's like,
yeah, exactly. I mean, wow. I wonder how much of a wake-up call though that the Gmail crash of late was to many on it. So.
It didn't affect me because, like I said, I back up my cloud-based shit. That includes my Gmail.
All right.
If it ain't in at least 2 places, preferably 3, it don't exist. That applies to your email.
Yeah, see, I guess the way I've just been doing it for years is that through the POPs that I have, and I do have IMAPs as well, is that my system that I have inherently has the backups as I go, because my mobile devices will receive it, my home computers will receive it, and my work computers will receive it. And yeah, I have one computer that's always, when I religiously, turn it on, and once it grabs the email at the end of the day, it's done. It pulls it from the server. And so I don't have, the server doesn't build up with all these other emails, but it inherently has, across the board, all these backups. And I guess I've just never really had an issue in saying, oh, you know what, I can get the email and I have it on my devices.
Well, no, that's like...
It does cause on mobile devices, I guess it would cause some sort of storage concern, but that's my primary thing. I don't fill up my phones with games and pet rock applications and things like that. So, I mean, that's just the way how I roll, I guess, with email.
Well, no, and once a week, that's what I do. It's like I back up my emails, and I also back up several other people's. I just log into the IMAP, and I use Thunderbird on Linux box. So I just copy everything to the local. I make a copy of all the accounts that I'm asked to, including my own, to the local folders. So if something goes wrong, and this every week, it's the new update goes over the old update. So at most, you've lost a week worth of stuff.
Sure.
And that's it's just a good rule to be doing. It's not like emails take up that much space anyways on multi-terabyte drives. I mean, okay. Anybody have any 2 cents on this Oracle versus HP thing over the? Oh God, what are the?
Well, actually, I love Itanium. I think Itanium was Intel's closest way of truly competing with RISC chips at the enterprise level. And even though it's still complex instructions at the end of the day, how they executed in parallel, I think, was pretty ingenious. It requires its own set of software, of course, to understand the architecture. But so many players come and go on Itanium. Microsoft themselves say, well, we're not so convinced of Itanium, and you'll have press releases saying that, and then all of a sudden they'll come in and go, well, we're not going to completely leave it. And HP is a big player in Itanium. I think they're one of the biggest sellers of Itanium.
Well, no, and see, this is what makes this make no sense. Oracle is basically dropping it all together, citing that they say HP is going to drop it. And HP's like, when did we say that?
Right. Itanium, I hope, stays around. It's a great alternative. I mean, it has its software sets. People have spent a lot of time developing for Itanium. Oracle has incentive to sell Spark now. They've acquired Sun.
Yeah.
I was going to say.
Spark then, though.
Well, no, and like one of the things this article is bringing up is that, well, Oracle's is making this whole change. Oracle's discontinued their database too. They discontinued their database because they bought Sun and now they own MySQL. Why the hell should they continue theirs?
Oracle's 10G, like 11G, are awesome. I mean, I developed for it. I mean, MySQL's nowhere near it. They have MySQL for an alternative for other avenues that they could make middle tiers against what Microsoft would dub their SQL Express edition.
Well, no, and see, honestly, I think that's what's going on with Oracle. I think they just went out and bought a bunch of companies, and I think they're honestly getting out of the true enterprise tier, and they're focusing more on what they consider a more common tier, and they're just...
They added it. I wouldn't say they're focusing, I'd say they added it to their portfolio, because they're certainly always going to stay enterprise level with their Oracle middleware and all that other stuff. I mean, they're too involved with it. They're a heavy competitor against SAP. So, I would say that they want to preserve their Spark engines. And let me tell you, I get Oracle newsletters all the time, and I get a lot of tech magazines where Oracle is advertising the power of Spark. I'm a very big Spark fan. Of course, anybody who watches my videos on YouTube knows I prefer RISC any day over complex instruction set computing. But Spark has always been given the gift of truly multi-threading applications and being able to execute it far more efficiently than most of its competition. And if Oracle can be written to use that, similar to how Microsoft, a lot of people don't even know, Microsoft SQL even participates outside the traditional kernel space, in that they have a specially dubbed fiber going to the CPU. They call it fibers, but then its own kernel space to go down to the CPU and use CPU resources for boosted efficiency and power for Microsoft SQL products. And the same thing, I can see Oracle definitely want to say, well, you know what, we can thread our application, turn over 64 threads, and bam, we've got serious parallelism going on, and can seriously outcompete our competition. But then again, okay, we're going to also help them with Itanium and give them support and so on and so forth, which is just another form of parallelism anyway. But I think what are they going to do? They bought the Spark asset. They want to promote the asset, so they make an announcement. They scare their customers, I think, is what the thing it is, and go, oh damn, well, if Oracle's not going to support Itanium that much, wow, maybe we should buy their hardware. I could see that.
I agree with you. I think that's what they're trying to do, but I also agree that could backfire on them.
Absolutely could backfire. Like, what is worth more to that person? I would be willing to bet, because there's such few things that do run on Itanium, that they would go and say, fine, we'll buy the hardware, because it's the opportunity cost to forgo what we currently have as our software infrastructure, which require logistics of an exponential number to change. They say go to SAP or something like that. They are going to go, wow, okay, well, it's a hardware change. So, what is the incentive? Maybe Oracle gives us an incentive on the hardware, because I think because Itanium is such a small market, in a niche market, there's not going to be much else competition around it. Now, the company, in terms of what you say, back market, screw it. You go to Xeon processors, network, open up to other.
Well, and honestly, that's what I'm. That is something that, for those who aren't in the know, Xeon has become an easily marketable thing as of late.
Oh yeah, it's cheap.
It's cheap. It's not, I agree with you. In the instruction set handling, it's not near as good, but it's one of those things. If you say Xeon, it's like a buzzword for those who aren't technical people. And at the end of the day, it's not always the IT guys who are making the purchasing decisions.
Mm-hmm.
They just kind of get stuck with making it work, whatever it is.
That's right.
So, yeah.
It's usually CTOs who don't know anything.
Yeah, it's like somebody came in and sold them, and then the IT guy, they can't fire their boss even though they desperately want to. It's like.
Yeah, database is a big part of what I do as a programmer. I mean, for the past 2 years, I practically live and transact SQL across the board, from Sybase, Oracle to MS SQL, and you see a lot of enterprise that they would be, we need to export it over and get all the logistics up in the software, that I can definitely see Oracle saying, we can grab them by the balls and say, you know what? Yeah, we're going to scale you, because we'd rather you run on our Spark machines, and we damn well know that the cost of you escaping our system to go maybe to a Xeon or something like that is not as practical as just saying buying a Spark system and, hey, we'll give it to you at a discount.
Well, I mean, getting off on another thing, like on the database side of things, this is one of the reasons I'm honestly surprised that Oracle is largely discontinuing their own database, because, I mean, why MySQL is king, like you're saying, it does have some limitations. A lot of things run on it and are built on top of it for obvious reasons, but I don't
agree that they're killing Oracle. I just say that they're expanding the demographic. They're going to maintain their existing with, their 10Gs, 11Gs, and all that other stuff database. There's too much infrastructure already. They make it. They're a billionaire. They're billions. I mean, they're one of the top 5 tech companies based on middleware and database software, for crying out loud. They're huge in what the Oracle database is given. I don't in any measure pretend to say that they're diminishing that at all. I think that they're just saying, you know what, we can now also get into this kind of demographic by using MySQL and also gaining these customers.
Well, no, and honestly, what might make more sense from what they're doing in that regard, what would make sense is if they were to create an enterprise version of MySQL that's on par with what the Oracle database thing was. Because one of the difficulties right now is if you start with MySQL and then you get to the point where you're truly doing a true enterprise thing and you need to move beyond MySQL, there's not a good way to just make a smooth lateral transition. You have to basically go back and retweak some things. What would be great is if there was a way to just do a straight lateral migration from MySQL to an Oracle database like system, because that would be a much smoother transition than moving over to the Microsoft database.
But why only have one product, I guess, is what I'm asking, is that MySQL has a long way to go to even achieve anywhere near the middleware that Oracle is used to, and I mean, MySQL recently got store procedures with MySQL 5 or something like that. I mean, it took forever. You got to start getting into like clustering and having parts of the database synchronized. I mean, even Sybase does that. I like Sybase databases for mobile devices from their central locations out. That you have what is it, bidirectional communication between all of them, but at an Oracle level, you've got tremendous amount of scaling that MySQL has a lot of catch up on, and I don't know why. It would be, I think it'd be tremendous, and would they be able to maintain the same type of licensing that MySQL has? if they were to add that much power and try to make it an Oracle equivalent. I mean,
here's the thing: when they bought it, they Oracle now owns MySQL. I don't think they can change the licensing of MySQL without getting a regulatory audit. And I say that because of the sheer number of things that are based on MySQL. If MySQL suddenly becomes in question, like some other things that Oracle bought to that degree, there would be numerous governments that would paint a bullseye on Oracle's bite. Whether they're right or wrong to do so, there would just be numerous governments that would go,
yeah. The same thing goes for Java as well. You know, a lot of people were worried, what are they going to do with Java now?
Oh, no, I think that was their plan, but it's very clear that that's bit back at them. It's like, and I think they've realized, oh, we can't push this button. Is Oracle still suing Android over that?
Yes.
Like, didn't it get basically proven that there's no infringement, that the thing in there was like a demo file that just wasn't removed, and it's not actually in any of the official Android SDKs or anything?
Oh no, what I love is just recently Google hired the Java creator.
We are living in the 1980s again!
Oh, it's business cycles, man. I don't know.
So Google's infringing on Java. I think he would know.
Don't you remember the days of when Microsoft, even when they were trying to make a Java standard, and Microsoft made J++, just to have their own damn version of it?
Yes.
It's insane.
Oh, I know. Okay, moving on to the big bet. Who do we want to go to? Do we want to go to Apple or Google first?
I have no idea if anybody's still around after 2 hours of recording.
Well, it's not like it's going to be one part, and we're not at 2 hours yet. We will be.
Hour and a half.
Yeah, it's like they can watch one part this week and the others next week. You know, whatever.
That's their choice.
Yeah, it's like there are people who will watch this straight through. It's like I don't it always surprises me, but there are people who will do that. It's like okay. I found this first one on Apple funny. You know, there's like the big rumor that was going around last week was, iOS 5 is not coming out till fall, and then of course Apple basically says, we don't know what they're talking about. We're looking at June. It's like.
Apple. No, I thought it was that the iPhone wasn't going to come out until.
What the stories were saying iOS 5. I do agree with the rumors saying the iPhone 5 is going to probably be delayed till. Some people are estimating as late as October, and honestly, that makes sense. The people go, well, that's not the atypical release cycle, but I actually think it would be smart if that's what Apple's doing. And people are basing that on the fact that, Apple hasn't released certain things they need to for manufacturers of third-party things and other things to even be remotely ready for a summer launch. It's like there's just too many things that haven't been lined up yet. It would be pushing everything to do it. I think it makes sense for two reasons. A, they just launched the iPad 2. You need to kind of give that time to spawn out. B, they just gave the iPhone 4 to Verizon. And there's a lot of people who, right now, who would buy iPhone 4s, who are sitting on the fence going, well, the iPhone 5 is going to come out in the summer, so do I really want to have last year's model when next year's model's coming out? Yeah, it's like, and if Apple comes out at WWDC and says iPhone's coming out in October, they will sell a shitload of iPhone 4s because people who are on the fence and go, I don't want to wait 6 months, will go buy them. And I think they benefit from that. Even though I hate Apple, I think it's the right thing to do from a business perspective. I don't know about this thing, because this is something Apple has never really done. The rumor going around right now is that WWDC is going to be both a Lion and iOS 5 event. They're going to be covering both.
Yeah.
It makes sense based on the timing of everything, but it's one of those... Apple has always dedicated one thing per event, and then there's the one more thing. And even with the iPad 2, there wasn't even a one more thing. You know, it's. Do you?
Well, I would say that they're both going to be there because, as a matter of fact, I think that a lot of iOS is involved with Lion, and I think that's how they'll make the approach. You know, they'll probably talk about iOS first, and then say, "Oh, all these wonderful things, by the way, you can find it also in Lion." So.
Well, and see, I am almost wondering if that rumor's true, if that doesn't have to do with, you know, the beginning of the merging process of iOS becoming...
Well, they both are OS 10. I mean,
I know that, but they're...
But yeah, they are bringing a tremendous amount of features from iOS over to Lion, no doubt.
Yeah, and it's clear they're trying to go for a more...
Integrated?
Yeah, although I'm not sure well, you know what? Let's ask our resident Appletonian. What do you think about this whole mergerization Apple's clearly going for over the next few years? Love, hate, can't decide.
I think it's actually similar to, if it could be expanded on, similar to how HP wants to use WebOS, in that it's not so much that you want to bring the user experience. Obviously, the way we handle mobile devices is not the way we handle desktop devices, but certainly if certain things go to the cloud and the amount of applications that people are used to, then you can extend maybe that service to the machine and therefore make the relationship between the applications and increase those services via the desktop to that application. You've exponentially probably given the consumer a much better experience than rather than keeping them isolated little islands from each other, and increase the potential of really what can be done. So as long as the integration doesn't affect my desktop performance, I don't care. I think it's a total benefit. If it, however, restricts me in what I'm used to and doing on a desktop, then I'm going to be one pissed off customer. So
well, and honestly, that's the thing I'm concerned about there, because it's not just Apple; it's a general trend in computing. And at the end of the day, it's like you're saying, it depends what type of workflow you're doing. Why a lot of people would like the oversimplification, but when the oversimplification starts to get in your way of just general workflow, then you're in a boxing match with your computer to get actual work done, and that's not a good situation. But that only affects power users and higher end users.
I could definitely agree with that argument. For me, though, I definitely treat the way I operate on a mobile device far different than I treat my desktops. And I also have very different expectations. You know, if the mobile device technical hiccup here or there, or performance on the internet is not quite there, or I can't quite surf the same way on desktop, it's a little forgiveness. It's a mobile platform. It's not quite perfected. But that stuff translates over to desktop now, then you have a serious problem with me. So, that's how I look at it. It's very much a benefit if it's added as a additional component, and saying, you know what, we're going to bring part of the connectivity of your mobile device over to your desktop so that we can offer you new services and probably speed up the way you do things on your mobile device, and maybe give you extra services that you weren't expecting to have. And that's why I'm a big fan right now of WebOS and what I'm seeing where it's going and how its connectivity and sharing of data happens across all devices. That to me is a big benefit. If Apple does something like that, you know, they'll have all my support, and then Apple will then again become a serious competitor against WebOS, which is my primary mobile operating system that I use. So, you know, it just depends on what they're going to offer. A lot of people are saying they're not going to do the same connectivity as HP.
Well, no, I largely agree with you, and I honestly think that's how they start out. But inevitably, the decision all of these companies who are going down this road are going to have to make, and this includes Apple, is they're going to have to decide between bringing more of that in and pissing off power users. And at the end of the day, what I'm afraid of is that all of them, because power users are a smaller percentage of the market, they'll just decide, fuck us, we're going to cater to the grandmas.
But power users, let's be frank, power users are also, may not be a power user at home, but they become a power user at work. And a lot of what we do at work bleeds into our home. And, and if you start making two separate islands, you'll lose that sale, because how many people do I run into and saying, you know what, can I do this at home because my work has this, and sometimes I'm sick and I need to log in and do something over there, or something over here.
I don't know about you, but when I'm at home and there's no way in hell I can possibly go into the office, and I kind of stuck here with whatever the hell, that's like the perfect time for something to break. And it almost seems to always break at that time. It can't break at any ever. It's like a rule. It has to break then.
Right. Yeah. So as long as they don't make these things islands, and they make bridges between the two islands now, and we get to share the benefits of that, and an increasing amount of services that we can now provide to our mobile devices by having interconnectivity with our desktops is totally a positive. And I think getting onto your mobile me point is at $20.99 or free. I've been a .Mac subscriber for a long time. It sucks. It sucks, yeah, and it's an insanity that I have, but that's part of the workflow that I have, in that .Mac has been a very reliable email service for me. Earthlink has failed. AT&T has failed. I have like another Texas company. They have all failed. .Mac has actually been one of the most reliable email services that I've had without fail. So that's, with all the insanity of paying $99 a year for other shit that's absolutely stupid, you can't really sync all that well with iCal and all that, and I really pretty much ignore the services other than iDisk. I keep it around, hoping that they increase the services, and it can become something like HP envisions with WebOS, and we can get more into the cloud, maybe more of a CDN type situation. But who knows what's going to go? I can tell you, if it goes free, they're just going back to the early 2000s where we had iTools. You used to be able to get 25 megabytes of space for free. You could do cards for free, email for free, all under iTunes. iTools. Before iTools, it was eWorld and CyberDog. So Apple's had many parts of time where it's offered these cloud services for free, and then it's then gone to a paid model.
And then off, and then back on. The reason I brought this up, I mean, we'll find out at WWDC, I'm sure. But it's like there's equal validity rumors to all three of these price points, all of which have sound logic to why Apple would be going back to free, why they would keep it to $99, why they would be lowering the price to $20. It's like, really? You know, can we pick a rumor? It's like,
yeah, I would not like them to go to free, because if that's the model, then it's probably going to weight down the system that I've currently been used to. And I hope and pray that it doesn't affect my email servers that I've been using for years. And if they do want to do something free, they better freaking put it on their damn planet that doesn't affect my email servers, is all I gotta say. Because I don't want to have to deal with all this extra weight traffic. Because I've had a very reliable service, and I appreciate it. And they better have a pay model that I get a lot more services than the free version. Because then I can't see Apple making it free while not introducing a tremendous amount of services for the paid customers. So,
yeah, and it's anyone's guess. It's like I said, we'll find out, son. It's like in the last Apple thing. It's like I said, everybody's suing everybody, and of course, Nokia's expanding their suit against Apple. It's like part of me is happy that this is happening, because it's Apple getting some of their own flack for suing everybody else over things that never should have been patented. But a larger part of me, even though they are attacking Apple, is, this is just more BS. It's just...
Well, I'm excited to see. There's a lot of rumors. I'm really excited to see what they're going to do. And I will be very impressed if they come up with something very similar to sharing across all devices and getting and opening up their syncing engines. If I do happen to have Gmail, anything, let's say I use Google Calendar, Google Contacts. Don't just make it syncing with iCal. Let's have other services. Or I don't know if any of you are familiar with Zimbra.
I would
collaboration software.
Don't take this the wrong way, but I'm not sure I'd hold my breath for a solution like that from Apple.
Yeah, but it would be awesome.
This is my big complaint with Apple, that they try and lock things into the iWorld. If the iWorld's so good, why can't it play nice with other things? Because like you're saying, it'd be incredibly useful.
Yes, exactly, yeah.
And it'd be, I don't know. That's